So I have a question for you. What does school teach you about money? So when I'm 9 years old, I'm sitting in the 4th grade and I asked my teacher, I said, hey, when are we going to learn about money? And my teacher smiled and she said, we don't teach the subject of money in school. So I'd go home to see my poor dad. He's the head of education. And I said, when do we learn about money at school? And my dad says to me, we don't teach money at school. So the question kept haunting me, why don't we teach the subject of money at school? So the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a story of two cultures. What separated my rich dad and my poor dad were two pieces of paper. His college diploma, his PhD was everything. And my rich dad thought his financial statement was everything. But really what makes you rich is your financial statement. I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 1997 and was published. It had to be self-published because every publisher said, you don't know what you're talking about. When I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I put in there savers or losers. And people got so angry because for many people, saving money is a religion. But why would you save money when the government and the Fed are printing money? In 1967, I hitchhiked from New York where I was in school, and I went to Montreal, Canada for Expo 67, the World's Fair in the Future, was because one of my father's favorite teachers, and Buckminster Fuller had built the geodesic dome. So in 1981, Fuller put on a seminar in Kirkwood, California, near Lake Tahoe. It was called The Future of Business. My father, poor dad, was head of the teachers union. And from what I saw, I didn't want to be a teacher and I didn't want to be a union member. So it was kind of youthful exuberance on things. If you want to learn about money, why don't you ask your best friend's father about money? This is the difference is an entrepreneur must know about money. And it says an employee doesn't have to know anything about money because the government will take care of them, the company will take care of them. And I didn't understand why I was playing this game of Monopoly. And one day, Rich Dad said to me, he says, there's many ways you can become rich. There's many formulas for great success in money. There's thousands of them. But one of the best ones found on the game of Monopoly. Still is today. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. He says one of the greatest ways to acquire great wealth is playing Monopoly in real life. So you should definitely cut up your credit cards if you don't know, you can't control your spending. You should definitely. But I don't know how people live without credit cards. I don't know how you can check into a hotel, rent a car, or go shopping and go out for dinner, but you should cut up your credit cards if you're a shopaholic. And the other thing about debt, there's good debt and bad debt. This is going to be the lesson today is there's good debt and bad debt. And if you only have bad debt, which I classify student loan debt as bad debt, the main reason it's bad debt is because it's the worst possible type of debt. You see, if I get into trouble as a businessman with debt, I can declare bankruptcy. But the trouble with student loan debt, you can't do that. It hangs around your neck for the rest of your life. So if you're a student, you shouldn't take on student loan debt unless you absolutely 100% guaranteed that you will commit to graduating. What are they going to study? I have 2 friends, they're both medical doctors. And they came out of school with $500,000 in medical debt, in student loan debt, because they're medical doctors. They had high-paying jobs. And so they delayed having families and all this, and the whole objective was to pay for becoming a doctor. But is that all there is? He goes, and he says, what do you think I'm doing? And I went, and 10 years later, when I was 19, I was now in school in New York. And when you go to Waikiki Beach today, you'll see the Hyatt Regency Hotel. That property wasn't that big at the time, so he had to buy out all the small guys. And it took him a while, but he finally assembled this large piece of property. And then he and Hyatt put up this giant hotel. It would be an asset. My wife and I have a boat. And most boats lose money, but our boat makes money because it's in a charter. People rent my boat all the time. I know the game of the rich. My rich dad taught me, you know it because you're the banker. The bankers and the rich play. The way to keep the poor and middle class working hard is never teach them what the rich know. It's what the rich teach their kids about money, the poor and middle class do not. And I don't like that our academic system's so corrupt. We know the banking system's corrupt. And we still tell kids to go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and get out of debt if they can print it faster than you can work for it. Why do you keep saving when they're printing it? The rich don't work for money. And she says, if you're going to be successful in your life, you've got to find the best teacher. And a great teacher is somebody who comes from the inside, not the outside. I said, I want you to teach me about money. So it was I said, why should I teach you? He says, but if I teach you, you work for me for free. And even lawyers today are having a hard time because they don't need that many lawyers, which is a good thing. And there's artificial intelligence, which is replacing a lot of the high-end jobs. Like even accountants today, they don't need accountants because artificial intelligence can do a lot of the work for them. And I said, why for free? And my poor dad went nuts. He says, because if I pay you, you think like an employee. If you learn never to work for money, you'll be a rich man. Cash flow is a verb. So to understand if it's an asset or liability, it takes a noun plus verb. So if the cash is flowing out of your pocket, it's a liability. If the cash is flowing into your pocket, asset, verb. So I own 7,000 rental properties. Those are assets. Every month, the cash flows in. Whereas many people have the big house on the hill and the cash is flowing out. The rich don't work for money is number one expense is tax. See, there's three kinds of income: earned, portfolio, passive. You know, I was pretty clear when I was about 15, I wanted to sail the seas. I sailed huge ships, throughout the world. But that was a dream of a kid. And by the time I was 22, I was tired of it. I didn't want to sail the world anymore. Failure should inspire you to get smarter. And unfortunately, our school system says if you fail, you're stupid. That is not true. We learn from our mistakes. Mistakes are opportunities to get smarter, be humble, and take a look at something. And that's the problem with most people today as they leave school. Most of them haven't really learned much because I don't remember my third year of calculus. I have no idea what I learned there, but I did learn that I failed. And when I failed, I was going to be, this was in the 60s, I was going to get sent straight to Vietnam. So failure was a very painful subject. I also failed English twice in high school, and today I'm known as a writer. So failure is the key to success, except in school. So our schools are teaching entrepreneurship, but they're not teaching them tax. A big lesson for you is that it's nothing to do with the house, the car, the student loan. It has to do with where's the cash flowing. If the cash is flowing into your income statement, into your pocket, it's an asset. It's good debt, okay? And because they're focusing on income. Over here, it's 20% in tax. But to really become rich, you have to focus on this side here. And that's the difference between a rich dad and the financial and what they're teaching in school right now. I'd rather be on this side. This side is a lot harder, but in the long run, it's more fun for me. On this side here, it's harder, but you're paying tax constantly. So these guys here are saying tax to rich. Well, these guys don't pay taxes. In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I wrote about Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's. And he was teaching at the University of Texas, the MBA program. And Ray asked, and most of the MBAs are going to come out here. In school, they compensate for risk by telling you to memorize the right answer.